Hi, this is David Baumblatt from Terabint Leadership, doing the first episode here where I'm trying to stream on Telegram. If you're on Telegram, let me know. But anyway, thanks for joining. The reason I'm streaming on Telegram now is I've recently been suspended for the fourth time on X, and this will be the last time I'm going to join X again. It's embarrassing. I mean, in terms of our country, our system, it's a clown show. And what do I mean by that? Well, let me share the screen here. So that's the X. So it's been suspended. Interesting, if you looked at can everyone see? Yeah. Interesting if you could see my original title, West Point Military suspended on X 3 times. This will be the 4th time, reporting government corruption, this and that. And the one thing that I'm going to do differently now, and I should have done it before, it's embarrassing for me. When I was suspended on X the first time, it should have been that's it. I mean, you take a military veteran and you suspend me and kick me off, and I went on again and again. No, I mean, unless something happens, some person in X, I'm not saying they apologize, but they say, hey, we made a mistake and get me back on. Otherwise, I can't do it anymore. There comes a time for a man in leadership where you have your pride. And many people, let's make it known here in terms of the First Amendment, if you have a private business, a private platform, I believe you should be allowed to discriminate for whatever means necessary or for whatever criteria, because that also is a form of freedom. X, Elon Musk, his businesses, these are not private platforms anymore. Anyone with common sense knows that Elon Musk is intimately tied into our government, both in terms of funding and influence. X is by all means now a political platform. So this whole notion that Elon Musk is a private businessman, this is a private platform. No, if it was, I would agree. I think you should be able to censor, suspend, or discriminate. And I wrote this in my book for whatever reason you want. If it includes gender, race, religion, it is what it is. You're a private individual, and I believe. But in the public realm, that's when the government needs to step in and protect you and defend your First Amendment. X, Elon Musk, and many of Elon Musk's companies that are all being subsidized by the American government, means the taxpayer, these are public entities. To suspend 4 times an American citizen military veteran, and I've got to admit, on X, I've seen some pretty, for lack of a better word, crazy stuff, which I'm still fine. I'm a very strong believer in the First Amendment, but I'm getting suspended on it. Anyway, that's it for me. I can't do it anymore. It's just about pride, but I gave it a try 4th time. So right now I'm streaming on Rumble. My counts are going lower. We'll see. YouTube, this is my 2nd account on YouTube. The first account was also censored. If this account gets censored on YouTube, that's it for me. And then also I am on doing Telegram, whatever that is. We'll see if that works. Anyway, let's get into today's episode. And what am I trying to say on that? Well, the first is, let's play Elon Musk here, and I'll tell you, it's a pretty interesting hypocrisy, to say the least.
Of free speech. Free speech. I think we need to be very cautious about anything that is anti-meritocratic and anything that results in the suppression of free speech. Free speech used to be a left or liberal value. And yet we see from, the in quotes left, a desire to actually censor. There's a reason for the First Amendment. People came from countries where they could not speak freely. We must protect free speech. And the thing about censorship is that for those who would advocate it, just remember, at some point, that will be turned on you.
Makes you wonder, again, I keep saying about these wars in Iran or Iraq or Afghanistan. What are we fighting for? We're not fighting for the First Amendment. I can tell you that. Even with Donald Trump, I mean, I'm a case example in terms of the amount of censorship that I've had. It is absolutely crazy. So what exactly are we fighting for in Iran? Again, you think about the military-industrial complex. Also, you think about our interesting relationship with Israel. But here we have Elon Musk. It's turning into kind of a clown show in America in terms of what we say. What I do want to do is, I've always said this, we'll go into certain topics, but I've always said this with Donald Trump, and Donald Trump has deviated more and more. I sometimes don't recognize him per se and what he's doing, but he's definitely deviated from nationalism. But what have I always said? The best is yet to come. I've always said that Donald Trump is not going to save the system. So let's take a look at a couple things here. This is an interesting one with Donald Trump.
Support me, even though you know I'm the donors, the special interests, the lobbyists have very strong power over these people. They have a lot of control over our politicians. And I don't say that favorably.
This is our first Jewish president. We thank you for everything.
You're not going to support me, even though you know I'm the best thing that could ever happen to Israel. You're not going to support me because I don't want your money.
I love Israel. I'm with you all the way. You will be bigger, better, stronger.
And a lot of bad decisions that are being made for the benefit of lobbyists and special interests. You better get rid of the super PACs because they're causing a big problem.
We have to get the people of our country, of this country, to love Israel more. That are Jewish people, that are great people, they don't love Israel enough.
We'll talk about a little bit later, but I think anyone with common sense knows, even the Chinese see it. We have a very unbalanced relationship with Israel. It's good to have relationships with our allies. And I still would put Israel as our ally. I know people are going to push back, say, hell no, we'll get into it. But that relationship is very odd. And I wouldn't argue that the war in Iran, it could be in absolute national security interest of Israel. Is it for America? I don't think so. I think we have more problems. For Israel, sure, I'm not going to argue. I've never said I'm a Middle East expert. But for Israel, this could be a priority war for national security for Iran. For America, not buying it. I have more important things. And I've said many times, if we're going to look at threats overseas, I'm still looking at China. I don't view China as like this enemy, but that would be the number one threat overseas. But what would be, I keep saying, what is the number one threat that's going to take away your Christian faith, your European family, and your freedom of the speech? Probably the American global corporations and government. But let's go this clip. Remember, I keep saying I see Mighty Megatron. Meanwhile, the counts of chimps and beating in Chicago. And again, I'm a very big believer in freedom of speech, but I could tell you, we'll do two clips. I'm just guessing what's happening to me, but anyone, and let me say this now, I have to admit, remember I keep saying about the fall of America, I have focused heavily on the MAGA group, not saying, I probably have said many times, the far left and the far right, we probably have a lot of stuff we could agree on, meaning this system needs to burn to the ground, basically. But generally, I would go to the MAGA. They're pro-military, pro-law enforcement, pro-white, everything. And I was definitely pro-Trump, and I still am, but I'm losing it with him. Not like I'm going to the Democrats. But anyway, the amount of treatment that I've gotten from MAGA, simply to say I'm a military veteran support, has been absolute dog shit. It's unbelievable. I would say it's probably only 10%, and I'm being generous, 10% of MAGA people would be positive to me. And the only thing I've ever asked is, repost, no money. 90%, who are you? What are you, a grifter? What do you want money for your book? Well, I mean, it's just down the line. Why should I try this and that? You're in China. It's like, okay, forget about it. Thanks for your support. It's been really bad. And what I'm trying to say is, I don't believe it's targeted to me, meaning they're going to, meaning even now you're starting to see people in the Trump party leave, which would be me too. And that is, I'm also become critical. You've heard the other influence, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and the MAGA people are absolutely attacking them. And I've said stuff. I put a clip about Charlie Kirk, who also said that this war in Iran, we should have never done, stuff like that. But anyway, these people in MAGA are really dog shit. And I mean that because it's part of leadership and principles. That's what I'm saying. If you're on the left side and you say you don't support military, you don't like white men, all I'm just saying is you figure out whatever principles you have. Just stand by your principles. That's it. You want to be a Satanist? Be a Satanist. You think pedophile is okay? Just stand by it. But something that we don't like is fakeness, where you say one thing and you don't back it up. If you say you support military and you can't even repost or maybe be positive, say, hey, this is this is screwed up. Here's something, let me explain this too. Before Trump got elected and after it, there also has been a very different treatment that I get from MAGA. When Trump wasn't elected, and I would say stuff like the government is corrupt, the FBI is corrupt, negativity about the system, they liked it. Why? Because that's what Trump campaigned on. The system's bad, and he's going to come in to save it. There was an interview on CNN with Kristi Noem. Not a big fan of her and women in leadership. Anyway, she made the point, and the CNN person caught her. She made the point, she's like, I wouldn't trust the government. The government's corrupt. And the CNN person said, wait a minute, you are the government now. This is after Trump got elected the second time. She goes, you are the government now. And she tried to backtrack. So the point being is before Trump got elected, the FBI was corrupt. Now he put in Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. Now it's fixed, and it's not. So now if you say, hey, the government is corrupt, this system's not working. Now, meaning you could say the MAGA cult, they take it as a threat. Why? Because Trump has ownership. I mean, he's the president. I don't know who you're going to blame. So now if you say, hey, the FBI is corrupt, the military, this or that, or we shouldn't have went into wars or whatever. In fact, I even said before about Joe Biden, and trust me, I'm done with politics. I don't vote. I left America, and I am telling you, this system is going to be solved with guns and ammo. So don't even assume that I'm like perhaps these other disillusioned MAGA people that I'm now on the Democrats. Not even close. And I've said many times, this is going to guns and ammo. But what I do want to do is when we're looking at the wars and where we're going, this is not aligned with what Donald Trump preached on. And I just don't think this system is going to be fixed in any type of fashion of getting in the votes or, again, going for the Democrats. And I keep saying we're going to do a clip. Now, this person is pretty interesting. I don't know him that well, but I keep saying the best is yet to come. Do I think this person is going to be our future leader? All I'm saying, and Donald Trump deserves credit, he moved the needle from globalism more toward nationalism. He's done a detour, but it's either nationalism or die, or done. Take a look at this person and then we'll see. But I'm telling you, I kept saying with Donald Trump, the best is yet to come. Let me see where this is. Yeah, right here.
Maybe it would be smart. You say we have a Jew problem, and instead of saying we have a Zionist problem. And do you think that maybe it would be smart for your campaign to try to temper that so people don't get the wrong idea?
Nope. One of the things about my campaign is that I'm not going to craft my message in any way, shape, or form to appeal to people. I'm going to tell the unadulterated truth. It is not going to be shaped at all for the group that I'm talking to. I'm going to say what I truly believe. And and you're either going to like me or you're not going to like me, but you're going to like me or not like me based on what I truly believe and not a crafted version that I think is going to appeal to my audience. I'm specifically not going to craft any message. I'm just going to be completely honest. And I think that's what politicians today are lacking, is raw honesty. You thought that you were going to get that with Trump, and then you got an absolute narcissistic, pathological liar. And so, yeah, that's a very important piece of my campaign. And one of the reasons why I'm running is because I believe that politicians have an obligation to be completely honest. And like I said, I'm not saying that we have a Jew problem. I'm saying it's a Jewish supremacy problem. I mean, I would say that, Jews are causing a disproportionate amount of problems. I'm not going to apologize for that. I didn't choose this fight. And the reason I'm not going to focus on Zionism, because that just focuses on Israel and our support of Israel. And I think this is a much deeper rooted issue. I look at it as what's going on also in America, and the fact that homosexuality and transgenderism and all these things are being pushed on us by the Jewish media, by, Hollywood, which is predominantly Jewish, run by Jews. And that is the message they're pushing on me. That's the message they're pushing on children. And it is kind of, the attack on masculinity. I look at all of this stuff, and it's coming from the Jewish community. This isn't coming from Muslims. It's not coming from Christians. The Talmud has 8 different genders. The Bible has 2. The Quran has 2.
So what I keep saying is the best is yet to come. Trump sold us on a nationalist policy. That's why I was excited by him, and I think many people also were excited by him. He's deviated hardcore, but the MAGA cult still likes him. But it's going that way either way, because I'm telling you, our systems. In fact, let me tell you something on how we could solve this issue with Israel. Israel would never do it, but it would at least make sense. If people say Israel's our greatest ally, we have to support them. They're our brothers and sisters. Our tax money needs to go to them. We have to die for them. You know, you go on and on. Then you know what I would say? When Donald Trump got elected, he's taken a very authoritarian, imperialistic view of the world. At least I was about to say the Western Hemisphere, but not really. We're in war with Iran, but Venezuela, it's ours. Cuba, it's ours. Greenland, it's ours. Probably Canada, it's ours. You know, Central America, it's ours. So he doesn't have a problem taking territory. I think it's very dangerous. Why don't we do this? Why don't we make Israel the 51st state of America? We want to make Canada everything, but if Israel would never agree with this, you know that. But if Israel became the 51st state of America, and you as an American citizen can move to Israel, it can become a bilingual country, Hebrew and English. You could vote there, you could live there. I don't know, it'll be, I guess, a governor. You could run for office there. You get the benefits there, everything. Then why are we dying for Israel? Why are we giving our money for Israel? Because Israel is America. Israel is the 51st state of America. Do you have American passport? Yes, then boom. You can move tomorrow and resettle in Israel and go into politics and, you know, the Israeli military and the American combined. That would make sense in terms of why are we doing this? Because then they're American. Israel would never tolerate that. Why? Because they want their sovereignty. They want their independence. But I'm just saying, if we have an ally, supposedly with Israel, that we have to die for them, give us money, this and that, then it makes you wonder, how close are we? Let's just, because it sounds like Donald Trump wants to make a lot of other nations part of America. So, you know, he wants to take Greenland, which is our ally, in a very, not a holistic, a very hostile manner. Same thing we're probably going to do with Canada. You know, forget about Venezuela and Cuba, because you could look at them as enemies, not Greenland or Canada. So why don't we just do the same thing with Israel? Why don't we combine powers and say, Israel and America, we are now one country, one tax system, one everything? Well, Israel would never. Israel would be the first one that says, hell no. Why? Because to the Israelis, to the Jews, they come first. I don't have a problem with that. It's the same thing in China. The Chinese government puts the Chinese people first. The Israeli government puts the Jews first. I don't have a problem with that. Makes common sense. But what does our country put first? We're a global corporation. That's all we are. We don't have patriotism. If you think I'm wrong, we're going to look at another video. But I mean, look at me as a military veteran. And here's the point. There's a phrase in leadership called misery loves company. But the point being is if you are an anomaly, you're screwed. And so if I am an anomaly, like I'm just this 0.001%, I got screwed, it's over. But if there's more pissed off Americans, and I think there are, this system could go down. Because I'm telling you, you don't treat people like this. You don't treat American citizens, let alone a military veteran, like that. You have foreigners on X. This is also why our system is rigged in terms of our economy. We were raised like you and me that says, if you work hard, you make money. And if you don't make money, that's because you're lazy. And the system is generally fair. The system's rigged because social media is also now used in marketing. Look at Amazon selling. So you have a business. So you're running a business and he's running a business. You're censored on social media. He's not. That's an unfair advantage because again, these are YouTube. These are public forums now. So look at me, my livelihood. You're censoring me as an American citizen, but you're letting foreigners on there. The system's rigged, people. It's absolutely rigged. Anyway, let's go to this video real quick because I keep saying about, well, yeah, no, let me go to this. And I keep saying this. Many people look at the military and they're just absolutely, what's the word I'm looking for? They're just mesmerized with special operations. I think it's overrated. It's another story, you know, Delta Force, Navy SEALs, and this and that. And they have done amazing operations. the Maduro capture, and also the not the Saddam Hussein, but you could say that as well, but the Osama bin Laden, they have done some very spectacular missions, but missions don't win wars, people. And what I'm trying to tell you is, and I am fully in favor of a full ground invasion into Iran, and I want the military draft to come next. And I hope Trump doesn't taco out. And oh, by the way, to these American cult MAGA people who think this taco thing is strategy. No, man, he goes left, he goes right, he backs down. No, after a while, that name taco is not a good name. You don't want to be known as the pussy who constantly backs down. I think Trump is backing down because what I'm trying to tell you is our normal conventional military, they will fall apart because it is a government mercenary military. They're in it for the easy pay, the easy pension. And if it gets to the point they're like, I'm going to actually have to die like military, because we're thinking, because it is true, once you get to the Rangers and the Green Berets and the SEALs, besides them being more white men, it is a different caliber of people. But the regular conventional forces, it will break apart. No doubt break apart.
So I hope to find many more people who that there are rights for people who hear the voice of their conscience.
So this is about the U.S. military having more and more conscientious objectors, which let me put it. I am not a big fan of conscientious objectors when you're already in the military. You probably should have thought, meaning I think they're using this as an excuse. Meaning you're going to see that in the military. Once real war comes and people start just getting smoked, you're going to start seeing every excuse. You see it too when I was in the military. You see female soldiers getting pregnant because once they're pregnant, you have to send them back home. The whole thing about women in the military was never a successful formula. I say again, women in the military, never a successful formula. But when there's deployments in military, all of a sudden these female soldiers, they're pregnant. And they're like, I'm sorry, I'm 9 months pregnant. And they get sent back home and to have their baby. The biggest horseshit. Now, if you're a civilian and we're going to say a draft comes, it's possible. I do believe in this religious or moral theory of conscientious objectors. And I could buy that for $1. But you already joined the military. What do I think? I think a lot of these guys are using this as an excuse because they don't want to go to war and they don't want to die. That's not what they signed up for. The American military is a corporation. It's the same thing. It's like, what are the benefits? What is the paycheck? I want to get easy 20 years and leave. That's how it is, people. Whether you believe it or not, give it time. But anyway, this is the story about this.
Telling that they can't take part in this anymore.
More and more members of the U.S. military are becoming conscientious objectors. They don't want to fight in the Iran war or any other war for that matter. They want a way out.
And so I hope to find many more people who hear that voice and help them exercise their rights so they don't make the same mistakes that I did.
Mike Preisner, the executive director of the Center on Conscience and War, told us he served in Iraq and came to regret it. He doesn't want other young people to be marched off to combat when it goes against their moral values.
It was coming face to face with the Iraqi people and being a part of something that I was not proud of.
And again, I'm trying to look to the Trumpers. You're telling me the absolute debacle of Iraq and Afghanistan, there's no similarities with Iran, meaning what we did in Iraq and it was a total failure. I mean, you're an American citizen. Do you think you could say, hey, I'm going to Iraq, I'm going to Afghanistan, we're the victors, thank us, because it's all about, remember, Iraqi freedom? You're going to go to Iraq or Afghanistan as an American citizen, good luck. So that was a failure. And if you're a military veteran who served there and you think it's, well, we didn't win. So you're telling me there's no correlation with Iran? And I said to a lot of these MAGA people, I said, you know something? They like to pull up old clips of Trump talking about the Iran war. I didn't know that. It adds to him saying about Iran. He should have said it during the campaign trail. That's pretty important. He should have said, my name's Donald Trump. I'm running for president for the second time. And I'm telling you, we're not taking shit from Iran. And if I have to, I'm doing full war with Iran. That's probably, I mean, if you plan to go to war with a country, that's something the American people probably want to know. That's something that probably would influence their decision. as opposed to nationalism. It's time to stay out of these wars. So yeah, it is a big surprise. I know they like to pull these old clips up and say, look at that old clip. Hey, well, that was olden days. When he was on the campaign trail for the second time, he mentioned that about Obama, how he didn't want to pay the Iranians blackmail money. Totally agree with that. We're not getting blackmail. We're not going to pay Iran any money. But the solution was to go to war. Probably should have said that. Don't think so? Then why is it a surprise now? Think about it. Let's use common sense. You're telling me Donald Trump going to war with Iran is not a surprise? Everyone said, I knew that. I knew he was going to do that. Meaning that's what he said. No. So it is a surprise. So guess what? Probably he said that on the campaign trail. But anyway, we won't do this whole clip, but I'm telling you, you're going to watch. And again, Donald Trump is probably going to chicken out. Remember, this is the guy who dodged the draft 5 times in Vietnam. I hope he doesn't. I hope he does a full ground invasion. But I'm telling you, if he does, you're going to see our military fall apart.
Regretting, the things that I was being told to do, and seeing myself as the bad guy in the situation, and having great sympathy for the Iraqi population, and not just identifying with the civilian population, but identifying with the Iraqi resistance, the people that were attacking U.S. forces, attacking me. I understood why they were doing it.
Now, against the backdrop.
Yeah, we're not gonna do this whole clip, but what he said is exactly what I also said. So, by the way, when I first came out, I was also on LinkedIn. Oh yeah, I've been suspended on LinkedIn twice. Anyway, oh man, and this is when did my social media start? I think it was September of 2023. That was when I launched. And I defended the Taliban in Afghanistan for doing what any normal man would do. If you remember Red Dawn, if the Russians invaded America, what would you expect an American man to do? Pick up a rifle and kill the Russians. I mean, is this not rocket science? We invaded Afghanistan. We invaded Iraq. Of course I would have killed. Now, we gambled. We said, no, there's the pro forces, the negative forces. They'll go against the government. Well, we got it wrong. But I'm just saying, if you are an Afghani man or an Iraqi man in a foreign military force, I don't care if it's Russia. Hey, what happened to Russia in Afghanistan? The same thing. I don't care if it's China or Russia or America. If you are the invading force, what would common sense? This is why these generals suck too. I want to remember about Joe Biden too. I want to talk one quick about that. But what would you expect them to do? And I said the Taliban did exactly what they were expected to do: defend their country. I'm not into their culture. I don't really care much about the Afghanistan people. And also, if we didn't invade them, then we wouldn't have these Afghanistan refugees. I don't even care about the Afghanistan who helped out Americans like interpreters. They should not have ever been able to immigrate to the West. We should have stayed out of that country. But if we are going to invade, what do you expect the men to do? Just say, okay, yeah, I'll take my woman. Oh, you want my kid? Okay, I'll learn English. Okay, I have to become a Christian. Like, well, what would you expect them to do? Of course, they're going to fight. And guess what? They won. Let me just talk a little about Joe Biden. Not like I'm a fan of the Democrats or Joe Biden, but I have to go back to Donald Trump. I've said this before to piss off people. Donald Trump was all about ending wars. Donald Trump never pulled out of Afghanistan. Joe Biden did. It was a disaster how he did it. And there should have been generals that were fired on how we pulled out of Afghanistan. But at least he did it. Why didn't Donald Trump pull us out? He was president for 4 years, kept going, Afghanistan all 4 years. Then Joe Biden had to pull us out. Joe Biden made the right call to pull us out. How he did it, not very good. I don't blame him so much. My problem is these West Point generals. There should have been West Point generals fired. Whoever advised, because they're the experts on this stuff. They should have been fired. But anyway, that's another story. But Donald Trump, he's been elected. He changed the name from Department of Defense to Department of War. That should have gave people a hint on what his agenda was going to be. He's been a lot on the warpath here. It'd be different too if Donald Trump was a military veteran, his kids served in the military, he didn't dodge the draft. But for a guy that's not into going into the military along with his family, boy, he loves to start these wars. And is it in the interest of America? No. Is it in the interest of American corporations? Is it in the interest of Israel? Is it in the interest of some global? Sure. Is it in the interest of the typical American? No, not at all. We know that. We know that. Anyway, let's go with this. What did I say about nuclear weapons? If I had my guess, so I really hope Donald Trump goes full ground invasion. I said these MAGA people, it's time to stop being a pussy because you people are fake. You know, you support military veterans, fake. Full ground invasion, stop being a pussy because this taco thing is embarrassing. But I don't want a nuclear war. And why? People, it could be the end. You don't know. But my prediction is if nukes are deployed, America and or Israel, meaning deployed. That's my prediction. It's going to happen. I mean, we did it already with Japan, people. This is not that absurd. We've done it once. You don't think we're going to do it again?
Launch codes during an emergency. Trump wanted to push the button, but was stopped. Did the United States just come within inches of nuclear war? According to retired CIA analyst Larry Johnson, Trump allegedly attempted to access U.S. nuclear launch codes during an emergency meeting on Sunday, reportedly to authorize a nuclear strike on Iran. And according to the claim, a U.S. general had to step in and stop it. A president ready to go nuclear? This wasn't politics. This was the world standing on the edge of annihilation. A nuclear strike on Iran would not stay in Iran. It would unleash hell across the Middle East. American troops would become instant targets. U.S. bases would come under missile attack. Oil routes could collapse. Gas prices would explode. Markets would crash. Families here at home would suffer first. And then comes the bigger nightmare. Iran has allies. Russia is watching. China is watching. The entire world is watching. One reckless move could trigger a chain reaction no one can stop. This is not leadership. This is not patriotism. This is gambling with humanity. The public sees a government increasingly consumed by war abroad while Americans struggle at home.
I can't disagree with him. I've said many times, China is not very good at soft power. The best people at soft power are white Western countries, white people. I mean, there's a saying that white people were magical. I mean, people want to be white. They love English. They love Western culture, European culture, Christianity, freedom, creativity, beautiful women, we sell things so easily. And guess who's losing on soft power? It's America. And guess who's winning? China. Not because they're doing that great. All China needs to do is just shut up. I mean, we really are. And we're losing soft power too in Europe. It's pretty bad. Think it's going to be a problem? Let's see where it's going. But then again, you got to use common sense. If you start wars, that's probably not a good idea that's going to help soft power. So, you want to go around bombing other countries and then Trump talking about Islam and this and that. Remember, I would think differently with Donald Trump if he is, I'm not saying hardcore, but if he has a solid military background that says, I know war, my family died in war, Barron Trump is in the military, I know what I'm doing. This is a guy who's never served in the military, who dodged the draft 5 times. His family, I told you, comes from a history of dodging the draft in Germany. One of the reasons they had to leave Germany was they dodged the draft. There was military conscription with the Prussian military back then. There also, if you look it up, there was also dodge. This is DNA. There's good DNA and there's bad DNA. Either way, it's DNA. Things run in the family, both good and bad. And I could say many good things about Donald Trump, but this whole draft dodging thing, it runs in his family. His kids never served in the military. Now, that's okay on paper, especially if you're a guy saying, hey, I don't want to get in war. But when you're not in the military, you don't want to join the military, you don't want to die, but you want to send other people to die, we got a problem. But the people in the MAGA cult, and I think it's also part of the military industrial complex, they don't care. They just need money. Just get this war going. Here's something also about Trump's administration. This is very weird here.
Investigation was launched after a formal and U.S. President's top official from the Department of Homeland Security is in a legal suit.
This is one of Trump's DHS. Again, DHS, women in leadership, never a good idea. Women in the military, not a good idea. This is one of his DHS officials who wanted to do basically prostitution. It's called sugar daddy. It's a form of prostitution. What do I think about that? We'll do videos on prostitution, but it's one thing if you're a private citizen. It's another thing if you're a government official to be doing this. Doesn't surprise me because these are the MAGA women who still think that they could vote, they're strong, they're fucking whores, this and that, and they're still thinking, I'm a conservative woman. I'm telling you, if you're a woman and you believe women deserve the right to vote, you're a feminist. That's how it works.
Reports say that the official is on administrative leave after an investigation was launched into the leader's alleged quote-unquote sugar daddy relationship. Well, the investigation was launched after a formal complaint was filed against Julia Varvaro, who is the DHS Deputy Assistant Secretary for Counter-Terrorism, as per a Daily Mail report. The man at the center of this investigation described himself as a divorced father named Robert. He revealed that he spent $40,000 on her during a 3-month relationship that began on a dating app, Hinge, before discovering that she had a profile on a website called Seeking, which markets itself as a place where love and luxury meet. He alleged that her Seeking profile was under the name of Felicia and sought what he alleged mutually beneficial relationships with masculine men. He further added that he took Varvaro on numerous Porsche getaways.
We don't even, it's garbage. But what I'm just saying is, remember I keep saying that, and good for Trump, he moved the needle. He did move the needle. And he woke a lot of people up to these what's called rhino Republicans. And what we liked about Trump was he said stuff back then was very controversial. Just like I'm telling you in the future, I think white men, this whole deal of you're a racist, you're a white supremacist, you just got to get that gone. I don't care anymore. The point being is the needle has still a significant way to move. And one of that is people are looking right now at MAGA women thinking those are traditional conservative women. Just like who's the woman, I don't know, she's the press secretary, that she's got a baby now and that. No. Traditional women, one, you don't vote. Traditional women, two, you're not career women. You focus on kids. And so a lot of these MAGA people are like, no, man, the MAGA women, those are traditional. They're not traditional women. I hate to break it to you. It's kind of like going back to a rhino and you think those are conservative. No, they're not. They're called rhinos. I'm telling you, I've been into these arguments on, truth be told, I'm actually a little happy that I've been suspended on X because I'm not going back. I'm done. I've been a cuck to just even go back 4 times now. That's amazing. It's done. There comes a time a man needs to have his pride. But when I was on there, I would argue. And again, I'm not arguing with liberal feminist women. I'm arguing with MAGA women. And they're saying I'm misogynist. No, it is what it is. If a woman wants to vote like a man, that means she wants to share equal power in society. There's nothing wrong with that. That's called a feminist, though. And we as men need to label, just like when Donald Trump labeled rhinos as rhinos, you need to label these women. I don't care. This stuff about first, second, third wave feminism, I don't know. I don't care. It is what it is. You're either feminist or you're not. And there's only one question. Do you believe women deserve the right to vote? Yes, then you're a feminist. And all this privilege, and we know there's a lot of privilege with women. I'll do videos on feminism. That's gone. In a traditional society, absolutely. Women are favored. Women are protected. Women are provided for. You could go down the line. Not in a feminist society. And we live in a feminist society in the West. But the MAGA people will say, no, I'm telling you, these people are lunatics, those. We'll do a couple more videos. This also shows, remember I keep saying about this whole deal about white supremacy? It's the biggest joke. White men are the least racist men in the world. least racist men in the world. White countries are the least racist countries in the world. If anyone doesn't believe me, name the non-Western country and name whatever race. I'm telling you, it's not Chinese, that's for sure, and it ain't Indian. But just like the military-industrial complex needs a war to get money, same thing with the FBI, with these nationals, they need money. I have no doubt these stories are so true. So before I do this story, think about Director Ray, the former director of the FBI. Because remember, back then, this is also shows MAGA. When I said Director Ray was corrupt, MAGA loved me. But now if I say that about Kash Patel, they don't lie because that's part of Donald Trump. But anyway, think about Ray. By allowing the southern border open and you're allowing terrorists to come in, probably there's going to be a terrorist attack. And then all of a sudden, you need the FBI. It's a symbiotic relationship. Same thing with the military-industrial complex. You don't think this story we're about to see here is also that symbiotic relationship? Same thing. And it's your tax money.
Donor base of 3 million. He doesn't lie. The charity that supposedly fought the Klan funded the Klan. The charity that supposedly fought neo-Nazis.
So I should caveat, this is the Southern Poverty Law Fair funding which I think this neo-Nazi thing's a joke. But anyway, they're funding it. The same organizations that supposedly fight white supremacy and racism fund these groups. Why? Because they need a job. They need this. They need to pump this money into these supposed threats so they could keep their job. Very similar to the military-industrial complex.
Funded neo-Nazis. The Southern Poverty Law Center ran a methodical, calculated scheme to defraud their donor base of $3 million and lied to them and used an illicit banking structure system to create shell companies to hide their money and who it was being sent to, specifically for the reason to sow discord and hate into our society. This is the ultimate definition of hypocrisy. And if you look at the indictment produced by the Department of Justice and the FBI, you will see that these banking institutions tie directly the funding mechanisms in which the Southern Poverty Law Center used to fund at least 8 hate groups they supposedly wanted to take out, but they were paying the very villains of our society they supposedly wanted to protect us from. That's the ultimate hypocrisy.
So, as I say all the time, you're always needing these threats, always needing these threats. And it gets to the point is we're having less and less trust of our government. This is an interesting story. I never knew about this. Is there a correlation to my story on this? I think there could be. This is a UK former policeman who moved to Russia, and he's stripped of his British citizenship because supposedly, I guess, because he's considered a national security threat. This is very similar to mine. And guess what's also similar to mine? Just like the British government is not saying a word, our American government's not saying a word. Meaning the amount of censorship on me is through the roof. This is another dumb thing with these MAGA people. I'm telling you that you have no clue how many people I've written that have been totally ignored. These are government agencies, the American Legion, veteran support groups, American military veterans, nonprofits, everything, congressmen, senators, government. I've been ignored across the board, Dan Bongino, as soon as he left, blocks me on X. The point being is I go to these MAGA people. They're like, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? And I said, you know something? Has it crossed your mind that perhaps our government is corrupt and they're doing a cover up? Has that ever crossed your mind with my situation? Because if not, then you prove me wrong. Let's get a hold of someone in the Trump administration, some congressman or senator, something. But the amount of just absolute silence and what happens, I know this is what we do in the FBI. Sometimes the FBI and the CIA go too far. Illegal, immoral, unconstitutional. And you know what the de facto modus operandus is? Shut it down and not say a word. It's shut it down and not say a word. Same thing. But this story is pretty interesting with this guy. First time I heard about him.
Charge me with a crime. Just because I have the fascination with Russia, I don't see what harm that does. If I'm guilty of a crime, charge me with a crime. If I've done something, tell me what I've done.
Exactly. What have I done illegally? I can tell you what the FBI has done illegally. What have I done? And this FBI are absolute cowards where they will not even communicate with me because they don't want to incriminate themselves.
Hey, you've done this, you've broken this law, put me before a court. But I haven't done anything.
Mark Bullen is a former British police officer who's been stripped of his UK citizenship because of links to Russia. Are you a threat to national security?
No, that's ridiculous. You know, I'm not a threat to anyone.
So I am on the FBI terrorist watch list, and I'm considered a national security threat. These are also documents when I did a what's called a Freedom of Information Act request when I went to the airport in Chicago, where the Customs and Border Patrol, they searched me, and I wanted to know why. And I told this story before many times. On my first X account, I had all the documents because people were asked these questions. So just so you know that it's another reason this is a national security. I wanted to know because when the FBI was under when I was under surveillance by the FBI, there's no documentation. It's my word against nobody. They're not saying it. Like when the FBI employee physically assaulted me, I don't have any evidence of that. Meaning there's no cameras. But when I went into the airport and I went out of Chicago, there is documentation that I was searched, detained, interrogated. I was also humiliated. So I did a Freedom of Information Act request through the Customs and Border Patrol. So those two events have been verified. The documentation is redacted, but there's a key question that I wanted to get answered. And that one question is this: why? Why was I subjected to that? And guess what? And this took reiterations of going back through mail. So they were responding to me. At first, they blew me off. I had to go to their higher compliance. I mean, this wasn't easy. This was done before I went on social media because, again, I was trying to work this out behind closed doors. So finally, it came back. And again, this is FBI 101. They said, David, we are not able to tell you the reason of your detention, but we can what's the word I'm looking for? We can show you, or we can direct you to a clause. And the clause says, if this is in regards to national security, the United States government is not under any authority or any requirement to reveal their reasons why. Of course, it's an FBI national security investigation. There are similarities with me and him. But the problem is, and it goes back, remember these people too, they always talk about privacy. You don't have to worry about your privacy. As long as you're not doing anything illegal, don't worry about your privacy. You hear these people are like, who cares? Big brother's going to watch you and do this, but as long as you're not doing anything illegal, you have nothing to worry about. Yeah, our privacy as citizens is gone. What about the government? They're not going to tell you what's going on. If they make a mistake, if they do something illegal, they're not going to say anything. So the FBI this is an absolute cover-up. But I went to the MAGA. Has anyone thought about that? Ding, 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 the Epstein files. No one has thought that maybe the government, if they do something wrong, they'll just say, let's just cover it up. Has that gone through a possibility with my case? These are MAGA people. Part of it, like I said, this is part of the reason I'm glad I'm not on X anymore. These arguments, especially online, it's actually not good for your health because I've done this now for 2 years in a row and this and that. If those are some weirdo liberals, I get it. These are MAGA people. Their first thing that should have been is, okay, man, I don't know if you're telling the truth or not, but I'm going to at least repost. Just a simple repost to attack me online, MAGA. Why? What did I do? But anyway, let's keep going with this.
A 45-year-old father of four who works for a football club. I don't see how I could threaten anyone, let alone a country.
His case is the first of its kind, and I've just been speaking to him here in St. Petersburg in an exclusive interview. The 45-year-old worked at Hertfordshire Constabulary for 11 years, during which time he organised regular visits and exchanges with Russian police officers. And he now works at the Zenit St. Petersburg Football Club, which is owned by the sanctioned Russian energy giant Gazprom.
This is the Gazprom Arena, and this is the biggest game in Russian football.
He was told he'd have his British passport revoked in an email from the Home Office at the end of last year, and here is a copy of that email. In it, the Home Secretary says she's made this decision on the grounds that to do so is conducive to the public good, but she offers no other explanation.
I don't see how.
To anyone who doesn't have a problem with this, be very careful. What comes around goes around. You're going to be seeing stuff you've never seen before. The same reason I said about how ICE, I fully support ICE as it pertains to foreign nationals and especially illegal foreign nationals. When those ICE started smoking those American citizens, even though they were criminals, misdemeanors, and they were protesters, I don't consider either one domestic terrorists. But when they got smoked by the police, those were bad shots. And I'm telling you, if you're like, I don't have a problem with that, be very careful. This stuff, you start revoking citizenships and this and that, you're going to see it's going to happen in America, because as the American empire starts collapsing, this thing called the Constitution, rules, checks and balances, it's gone, people. It's gone.
I'm against the public good. I've told people I was Officer of the Year twice. I've got 2 commendations. I had a perfect police record.
I've got the letter or the email that you were sent, and they say there is information that this decision was based on, but that it can't be made public in the interests of national security. Are you a threat to national security?
No, that's ridiculous. You know.
So why do you think they've done this then?
I don't know. I mean, I know as much as you know. I don't know anything about it. Is it a mistake? Have they mixed me up with someone else? I don't know. Is it an act to a shot across the bowels of the other Brits living here? You know, there's a lot of Brits living in Petersburg, living in Moscow. Is it to scare them off? I don't know. It's all guesswork.
The letter came after Bullen was stopped at Luton Airport in November 2024 on a visit to see friends and family. He was questioned by counter.
This is very similar to my situation in some ways. This would be me at the Chicago airport.
Terrorism officers for 4 hours.
They asked me have I ever been a member of a political party? Who did I vote for?
So they started at Chicago asking me political questions. The only reason they weren't allowed to keep going is I said, I'm not talking anymore. What are you doing? I'm an American citizen. I want to go. I don't need this shit. There were foreigners. So again, I was on a plane at the time from Taiwan to Chicago, and I could tell most of the people on the plane were foreigners. And I remember getting, because I remember the people at the plane. They're gone. Meaning they went through customs and no interrogation, no detention, no searching their phone, their computers. And I got to fucking do it. I'm a military veteran. I said, no, I'm not doing this. And then it was like, why don't you want to speak? What are you hiding? I'm not hiding anything. It's called my exercising my constitutional rights, you little faggots. I mean, you get angry because you're like, I'm a military veteran. Don't do that. I'll smack your fucking face right now. This is our country. I'm telling you, you got to be careful. As ICE pertains to foreign nationals, I got no problem. I could shake their hand and say, thank you for your service, tax money well spent. But I'm telling you, people, I saw MAGA when ICE smoked those 2 American citizens who were liberal dodos, who did misdemeanor. Hey, look at the January 6th. You don't think there were misdemeanor criminal violence? Misdemeanor, absolutely. I've always said that about January 6th. I've said it was never a national security, and I didn't want to see anyone get major prison time. But I did say there was some criminal misconduct. So the 2 people who got smoked, the woman and the man, I forget their names. Sure, they were probably doing, obstructing police business. I get that. Nothing on the lines of a felony, and they were not domestic terrorists, and they got smoked. Be very careful when you start doing this. But I'm telling you, when I was at the airport, I don't like that. I'm telling you, the worst treatment I've ever got in my life at airports was at the American airport. And I've traveled before my passport was flagged, to many countries. I never had that many issues. And here I am coming to my home country that I'm a military veteran on. If you have evidence of criminal misconduct, that's a different story. Then let's go. Let's talk. They're hiding. It's so pathetic. You would be amazed on how weak our government is, that if they make a mistake, the default is just to cover it up. Because most citizens like you and me, you're never going to know. They're never going to know. So they'll just cover it up.
In the Russian elections, what do I think of Vladimir Putin? This was the funny. They go, what do you know about Salisbury? I said, what about Salisbury? And they go, the Skripals. I said, what is this, the Mad Hatter's Tea Party? I don't know anything about the Skripals.
So that's a reference to the poisonings, the Novichok poisonings, yeah.
I said, I don't know anything about the Skripals. Of course I don't. And it was just questions like that, just utterly bizarre.
Bullen says his interest in Russia is purely innocent, but the UK authorities may see it differently. He has a Russian passport, supports Vladimir Putin, and defends the Kremlin's war on Ukraine.
That's not the way it's been presented in the West. Is not true.
It wasn't a full-scale invasion?
Not in my opinion, no.
Why not?
Why not? Well,
now they're talking. Now they're talking politics. Yeah, that's fine. What is illegal? Or you made amazing how many MAGA people are like, what are you doing in China? I don't know. What's Boeing doing? It's amazing how much negativity I've gotten as a military veteran when they're like, what are you doing in China? But to the American corporations, to include the military industrial complex, Boeing and China, no one says anything. We have really been brainwashed by these corporations. I said, I don't know. You buy made in China products? Yeah. Well, someone's got to do that. The same American corporations that shut down the factories in America, where do you think they went? They went to China, asshole. So it doesn't seem like you have a problem with Coca-Cola, with Walmart, with IBM, with Boeing, with Amazon. No. But I'll tell you, it's like, let's focus on what illegal activities I've done. So now they're talking about politics with the war. I don't know. It's an opinion. Was Russia the aggressor and invaded Ukraine? Probably so. Are we the aggressor who's invading or bombing Iran? Probably so. What's illegal? What's the point? What's the point of this conversation?
As you know, conscripts aren't being sent. The whole situation, I think it's an intervention into a civil war.
And you support it?
I think it should have been done sooner.
Given your views, given your previous career within the British police force, and given the state of UK-Russia relations, some people in Britain might say, look, well, the UK is justified in taking away your citizenship. They're justified in being wary about your intentions. Can you understand that point of view?
No, I haven't got any intentions. I don't.
All I'm saying is, what's the law then? What is the law for that? But is that it? I mean, Russia is a little different than China. Now, I'm not saying illegally, but the point being is there are less American entities in Russia because the economy. In China, now it's after the COVID, more and more American corporations are relocating to Vietnam and India. But during my high time in China, you have no clue how many corporations. In Shanghai, it was littered with American and European corporations. So what's the deal? I mean, we have to go back, but if you take away someone's citizenship, that's a pretty big deal, especially him like me, born and raised. Don't you think we need a legal clause? What is the legal clause? Shouldn't that be transparent so all Americans can know? Or is it just like, well, it's just kind of odd. This is how our government, it's going to get down this, because as the American empire starts teetering more and more, these rules and laws and constitution, it's going to get more and more murky. You're going to see it's going to get much more murky.
Tend to do anything. If I'm guilty of a crime, charge me with a crime. If I've done something, tell me what I've done. Say, you've done this, you've broken this law, put me before a court. But I haven't done anything.
In a statement, the Home Office told Sky News, deprivation of British citizenship is a vital tool used to protect the UK from some of the most dangerous people, including those involved in terrorism, hostile state activity, or serious organised crime. Deprivation decisions are never taken lightly, but this government will always take whatever action is necessary to keep our country safe.
Oh, really? You know, I would probably say to keep the UK more safe, Europe, America, probably stop letting in all these immigrants, you know, especially the non-European, non-Christian, stuff like that. I mean, if you are in America, and like I said, this is where I do think Donald Trump, at least with ICE, he's doing his best. But don't fool yourself. Donald Trump thinks that legal immigration is a fantastic opportunity. I'm going to do 2 videos and they're going to be the same concept. Yeah, I see the comments about Dan Bongino. I think Dan Bongino is a piece of shit. I can't explain, because like I said, remember, it was the same thing before Trump got elected. If I said negative things about the FBI, it was real like, wow. But once Trump got elected, that's his FBI. So then you say the FBI is corrupt, it changed all of a sudden. No, Dan Bongino and then Kash Patel, they're doing a great job. Oh, wow. So problem solved. I guess Trump fixed the whole FBI. Great for him. You just leave it time. I want to focus on these 2 things, because the first part and then the second part. But if you're looking where America's going and you're looking where the world is going, and I've said this before, there's 2 trends that I think are unstoppable, and it's going to change the world for the good or for the bad. One is globalization. As much as we rally with nationalism, globalization has been taking over the world more and more. And the second is technology. And when you go to that future point where you have a globalist world where the globalists can utilize technology to control the world, what is this envisioning? So 2 videos, but they're same concepts.
15 by 2031. Moving on, let's get to some more stories. Now, global wealth is entering a new phase of rapid concentration and mobility, with the billionaire class set to expand sharply over the next decade. According to Knight Frank, the number of billionaires worldwide is projected to rise from 3,110 in 2021 to nearly 3,915 by 2031. While the population of ultra-wealthy individuals over $30 million has surged more than 4-fold since 2021. This acceleration is being driven largely by technology and artificial intelligence, which have dramatically increased the speed at which fortunes can be created and scaled. At the same time, wealth is becoming more geographically fluid. Regions such as Asia are expected to overtake North America as the largest hub for billionaires, while countries like Saudi Arabia and Poland are seeing some of the fastest growth rates. However, this boom is unfolding against a backdrop of rising inequality, with a tiny fraction of the global population controlling a disproportionate share of wealth. Increasing political scrutiny, tax reforms, and regulatory pressures are also prompting the ultra-rich to relocate capital to a narrower set of stable, opportunity-rich markets. India is emerging as a key player in this shifting landscape. The country is projected to see a 51% jump in its billionaire population by 2031, placing it among the fastest-growing wealth markets globally. The rise is being fueled by a combination of entrepreneurial growth, digital innovation, and expanding capital markets.
Okay, so that's the first video. I think we can all agree that, one, globalism has been increasing, and I don't foresee it to stop until some type of major war happens in defense of nationalism. Until guns and ammo comes into play, I don't see globalism stopping. The second is technology. And if you put those 2 together, globalism, technology, and also before we go to the last video, which shows to that, when anyone complains about this system, like we're talking economics, the middle class is getting absolutely railroaded in terms of their wages and standard of living. But the top 1%, this is the best system that's ever been done. They're getting richer and richer and richer. So I want you to think it. If you thought about changing the system, those that are in power, who are getting richer and richer and richer, why would they want to change the system? This is the best ever for them. The top, meaning if there was ever a time in this world, in the history of the world, to be in the top 1%, it's now. They have more power, where before the top 1% would be a king, but he would only control maybe a kingdom, had someone. Now, these people really can control the world now. So let's go to this one too.
Around the world. They directly. If a US Marine asks for a better rifle, we should build it. And the same goes for software. This is from a recent ex-post by US data giant Palantir. It went viral and has sparked international controversy. Why? Well, Palantir's surveillance and data analysis tools are widely used by governments around the world. They directly impact people in policing, border control, and in war.
I think it's not only marketing, but it is at worldview. I've called it techno-fascism.
This is Mark Kuckelberg. He is a renowned Belgian philosopher of technology. We asked him to help us make sense of the 22 strongly worded statements found in Palantir's post, which, by the way, are kind of a summary of this book, written by Palantir's CEO Alex Karp. So, what does the so-dubbed Palantir Manifesto say? Let's dive in. Claims like this one, coming from a tech company with strong ties to the military, could seem like a good publicity stunt. Mark Kuckelberg says there's much more to it.
I was really surprised. I was surprised that a private company gives a kind of ideological vision. I think that their goal is not only to make money, but their goal is also to change things politically.
Judging from the views expressed in the ex-post, Palantir's vision is a pretty militant one, with US technology at the center of global power dynamics.
It is a call, I think, to become a new military-industrial complex, and the scary thing is that they are already, right? They are really very closely tied with the state, with the Trump regime, and they really support specific military and security actions through their technology.
The data analytics company Palantir was founded in 2003 by Peter Thiel and Alex Karp. First investors were the CIA and the FBI. Today, the company has contracts with governments and companies around the world. Put simply, Palantir builds software that helps clients analyze large amounts of data from various sources. Especially the Gotham system has made headlines. Military clients use it to assess scenarios and develop strategies by combining signals, sensors, reports, and other data into one picture. Palantir's products play a huge role in 2 conflict zones. The company has a strategic deal with Israel's defense ministry for AI-driven battlefield analytics. Reports claim that its software is integrated into AI targeting systems in Gaza and help generate human target lists. Palantir denies wrongdoing. The US reportedly used Palantir during Operation Epic Fury in Iran, enabling the killing of Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. Palantir suggests technology is the key to power in a new and increasingly volatile world. And they portray highly controversial technologies as unavoidable measures.
This rhetoric has been used before. It has been used by far-right governments and fascist movements. The others are the enemy, and we have to defend ourselves. So AI is here slowly but surely inscribed in that logic and inevitable as a weapon of war.
But the tech is also used domestically. In the US, ICE uses it to track immigrants. Palantir software analyzes data from several US federal agencies. It quickly processes biometric and surveillance data, also information like social media posts and border entry logs. Palantir says it can track people in near real time and even predict crimes.
Yeah, so at first, of course, fighting crime sounds good, like who's against fighting crime? But what's behind here is that, of course, with AI, with digital technologies, there are a lot of new methods to crack down on your own citizens, to repress them, to arbitrarily arrest them and so on.
Using AI for mass surveillance can have dangerous consequences and a big societal impact. Think about it. What would it do to you, knowing you could be tracked down by authorities at any time? And how would it impact the decisions of people in power?
Palantir is already, also in Europe, for example, giving their technology to police forces. There are contracts But what I'm really worried about is that these law enforcement institutions, that they do not only buy technology, but that they also buy this particular ideology. I think here Palantir really offers not only tools but also a vision of what government should do.
To sum it up, for experts worldwide, Palantir is intentionally pushing a tech narrative that will raise their profits. And by embracing right-wing concepts, national security above everything else, the company is already impacting the lives of many people worldwide. What's your take on?
So again, I keep saying if there's two trends that seem to be unstoppable, unless there's a rise of guns and ammo nationalism, I don't see it stopping, and that's globalism and technology combined. Second is, to the American citizens, be very careful how Americans' foreign policy is, because it is true, or even domestically as it pertains to foreign nationals, because many times governments will lower the legal and even the moral standards on how we deal with foreigners. And at first you might say it's okay, but the methodologies, the tactics, the strategy, the way they implement the policies of foreign nationals, sooner or later it could be domestic. Think about it. What is right now in terms of Donald Trump? And he said it many times. What would be our foreign policy now? There is no international law. The strong eats the weak. We'll do what we got to do for survival. And most Americans say, hey, that's how we got to do it. Be very careful, though. That same ideology could one day be used domestically, and the government's like, hey, we got to do what we got to do. Your rights and your freedoms are secondary. Be very careful. But I would say those two trends of technology and globalism are going to continue to go. And why? That is what's going to enable the globalists. And once you have to use this, we'll end it here. Just try to think this. Most people, and this is why I look at Donald Trump, if you're a billionaire, it's almost impossible not to be part of the globalist class. Most Americans are struggling day by day to make ends meet and you know, to do what you got to do. And then all of a sudden, there's a few that have $10 million or like $20 million. That's amazing. Their life is set and they can live a comfortable life and they don't have to have many of these worries. And that's about $10 to $20 million, which is peanuts for billionaires. And what am I trying to say? Once you get at that level where you're a billionaire, you truly stop thinking about national boundaries. You start thinking of global. You're in a totally different sphere. It's hard to be able to be like even a passport, you can easily buy other passports. You can move. I mean, if you're a billionaire, you can easily leave a country, move to another country. So and if you're a billionaire, it's almost impossible to be a billionaire if you don't have a sense of a business that's already global. So the whole reason you became a billionaire is because you're doing business on a global scale. And because of that, you'll eventually lose this sense of national identity. I guess the saying goes that, remember, absolute power corrupts absolutely. I mean, I just don't think people can even imagine what life is like when you're a billionaire. It's just an unbelievable amount of money where you transcend the boundaries of national country and this thing called patriotism. Who cares? I mean, you're meeting Chinese and Russians and Middle Easterners. You truly feel like you're a global citizen and you're in that global club that probably meets at Davos every year. And you start really the masters, the same people. Our government is run by the corporations, the rich. The democracy is a joke in America. So when you're at the billionaires, you already think, how are we going to run the world? And they're going to run it with technology. And so they have a globalist ideology, and that technology empowers them. And guess what? Sooner or later, a lot of these freedoms are this national identity. We're already seeing this in the Western world, the non-Western world. And that's why what keeps the non-Western worlds alive is they don't have a democracy. If you have a democracy like we do, you know it's a joke. It could be bought. But if you have, for lack of a better word, fascism, a dictatorship, That is actually, and that's why many times we want to get rid of these governments. And even if it still is a fascist government like the Middle East, it's a puppet regime. It's installed by the West. But you really ask yourself, is our government, when you try to run for Congress or senator, if you have the money, you have a chance. If you don't have the money, you have no chance. Meaning our country has been bought and sold. And so when you're at these billionaire classes, this is the plan for them to create a global society using technology. And I'd be very careful. Like I said, you'll see it too in the MAGA people, whether it's where ICE did those illegal shootings for those American citizens, or foreign policy where we're just going around the world bombing countries, Greenland, do that. Be very careful. It could boomerang and come back. And I think it's already there. Like I said, I say unless there's a type of guns and ammo revolution, there's nothing changing. Do you think I'm wrong? Donald Trump was elected because many people had hope of he was a nationalist. That's the 100% reason that he got me excited, that nationalism. Has he deviated? I think absolutely he's deviated. Don't think so? I guess we'll see where this country's going. See where it's going. But what did I keep saying in terms of the basic foundation? Faith, family, freedom. Under Donald Trump is his plan to turn America into more of a Christian society, more of a European society, more of a society that values freedom. So again, if it's not faith, family, freedom, then what are we fighting for? What are we paying our taxes for? But I can tell you, Donald Trump, he is deviated strong. And I think what's going to happen is two things. I think the globalism, because I keep saying, I think Donald Trump is either compromised and or bribed, one or the other or both. So what you're going to see is you're going to continue to see globalism through technology increase in America. And unless, and I keep saying the best is yet to come, we talk about Dan Bilzerian, you have Dan, but that's going to be a form of a violent revolution. So whatever you want to call it, I know it sounds cliche like the Hollywood movie, good or evil, but I'm telling you, unless there's guns and ammo of a violent revolution, do you think these billionaires are just going to say, sure, I guess they're going to vote us out of power? Sorry, I guess we lost. They voted for the winner. No way. The whole system is going to be rigged. And so it's going to continue to go around globalism through technology. The only way, think about America. How did America form? Revolution. So, and what's also happening, you're seeing more and more Americans leave America. It's left. I keep saying, if you think you're going to vote your way out of this problem in America, I think you're delusional beyond belief. Delusional beyond belief. But that's how a lot of the Trump MAGA people have become. I look at them more like a cult. Think about it. Before Trump was elected, I know more about the FBI than most of these people, having served in the FBI. And we're just using that as one example. Before Trump was elected, the FBI was corrupt. Now it's not. I guess he fixed it. It's all smoke and mirrors, people. Just like this Iran war, people think, even MAGA people are like, this is justified. This is for our national security. This is the same thing, war on terror with Afghanistan, Iraq, not much different. So what do you do with those people? I think sometimes, what useful idiots, whatever you want to call the term, I think the laws of nature just have to play out to where either this country is going to go down or it's just going to get worse and worse. So you're going to start seeing more and more people like me abandon ship and they're going to go. But there's nothing that's pointing into the right direction because, again, we elected Trump on that belief and the Democrats ain't going to solve it. If you're going to go there. So what's going to happen? I'm telling you, it's going to get worse and worse. And you're only going to left with two things. You need to leave or you're going to have to use guns and ammo. It's going to get like that, meaning it's going to have to be state politics through a militia, and it's going to get dangerous. Think I'm wrong? Let's see where this is going. But I'm telling you, this is Trump's second term, and give it a couple months. He's almost halfway through this term with the midterms are coming. And even if the Democrats get elected or the Democrats win, it's a ping pong. It's going to go back and forth. I'm not putting in my faith in the Democrats. So where's this thing going? I think in the big picture, if you zoom out and you look at history, perhaps like I keep saying, this is how history repeats itself, the fall of the empire. But there are these globalists that they're not going to let this horse die, that they're looking for a bigger picture, a bigger horizon at a globalist level. And that's where it's interesting. What are they thinking about? Do they let this horse die, and do they move? Maybe they move toward a greater Israel project, meaning maybe the forces change and relocate. I don't know. But either way, it's not getting better, people, with Donald Trump. I know the MAGA people don't like to say this, but it's not getting better with him. You're going to see. But the difference between me is I'm not saying that my hope's on the Democrats. So where we're going to go, I think it's going to go bad. Let me just see the comments. I see Mighty Megatron, William Kruger. I think, like I said, at the end of the day, use your brain. I don't know what that is. We'll look at the Hitler, Stalin. Yep. I think a lot of people, they don't want to admit it. I've seen this in China. China looks at World War II and Adolf Hitler a little differently, but I think many times Adolf Hitler probably tried to buck the system with the global banks. But you'll realize that when you have fascist regimes, they're very difficult to control. The easiest to control are democracies, because a lot of people are stupid. You control the media, you put in your puppet politicians, and everyone believes that we have a democracy. We have freedoms in America. Oh, yeah. I mean, look at me, a military veteran. Look at the amount of censorship that I've gotten. It's unbelievable. And yet we still say we're going to war with Iran because we have to protect our freedoms. I don't think Iran has suspended me on LinkedIn, has suspended me on Facebook, on Instagram, on X 4 times, on YouTube, maybe a couple. I don't think they've done that, because I could tell you, if you're going to have a democracy, freedom of speech is paramount. It's paramount. So, yeah, I don't think the Taliban or China or Russia or Saddam Hussein, I don't think they were taking away my freedom of speech. I think the people taking away my freedom of speech is the American globalist government, the American globalist corporation. That would be my biggest threat, that I would say, toward Christian faith, European family, and our freedoms like freedom of speech. But either way, let's see where it goes. But I'm telling you, my videos are going to age like fine wine. Why? Because sooner or later, people are going to realize there's really only two choices. You're going to have to leave, or you're going to have to fight. And none of this fight, like we're going to pull it. It's going to be guns and ammo. I'm telling you, that's what George Washington, I mean, look at our founding fathers. Wouldn't they be considered the greatest American generation? They founded America. How did they found it? Not through peace, through violence, criminal violence. They would be considered domestic terrorists. If they would have lost, our founding fathers would have been hung as traitors. So if you think America is a great country, you have to remember how it was founded. That's the only way America is going to change. And I didn't want anybody. I left. I just said, I'm done. I'm out of here. I left. But I'm telling you, sooner or later, you're going to be faced with those two decisions. You're going to leave America, because more people are doing it, or you're going to have to bunker down into state politics. And here's a key word: state militia. State militia, because you're going to say we're going to have to fight. It's going to get like that. I'll do other videos. The same thing, like people leaving blue states to red states. You're going to see a resurgence of state politics as the system gets worse, and people are just going to say we're not going to pay taxes anymore. Which that sounds a lot like the Revolutionary War. Remember that? The Tea Party, the Boston Tea Party, not wanting to pay taxes. There's a correlation. Until then, I appreciate your support. I'm going to be on Rumble until I get censored. YouTube, this is my second account. I'm probably not censored. I only have 10 subscribers on YouTube, so I'm sort of probably under the radar. If I get censored again on YouTube, I'm done on YouTube. And I am on Telegram. I don't much. I posted a little bit, but I am on Telegram if you want to go. Other than that, I appreciate your time. To the American Patriots, David Baumblatt, lead to victory.